This is my audience for tonight. Tiana, Shania, Alyssa, and Carol. Good evening, friends, family, fellow classmates, and Dr. Mealy. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving holiday and all is easily working their way back into these last few weeks of our public speaking course. For this informative speech, we were asked to talk about something within our major. Topics were not limited as long as it had to do with our college major. I am a business major focusing on accounting. Most people, when you say accounting, are expecting a dry, boring topic. I struggled at first because I had to pick something that could keep my audience's interest. The more that I work in accounting, I think about the code of ethics and how important it is in any accountant's position. With that being said, I chose my topic to be based on the Carolina Investors scandal, which happened in the heart of Pickens County back in 2003. Once upon a time, stock purchased from their parent company, HomeGold, was worth $20 per share to dropping to less than a penny. Hearing such a statistic makes the mind wonder how this could have possibly happened. First, let me give you some background of the business itself. Many investors trusted the officers as well as the management associated with this business due to their previous positions held and their well-known status among the people. For instance, Earl Morris, for many years, was a chairman for the organization. Many looked up to him because he was retired from the public office and held many positions that included state senator, lieutenant governor, and comptroller general. With an employee inside the organization that can add that to a resume, what could possibly give you an ounce of distrust as an investor? This person also held a position as a trustee of the National Foundation that oversaw the Financial Accounting Standards Board. As a business owner, perhaps, with these kind of credentials, I would have expected a win-win situation with all parties involved. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case for those that invested their money with Carolina Investors. Back in 2003, Carolina Investors forcefully closed its doors, causing losses up to $275 million amongst 8,000 investors. The scandal that I'm speaking made national news lines as well as the history in the state of South Carolina. This scandal became known as the largest financial scandal in the history of South Carolina. One of the biggest losses went to a nonprofit organization, South Carolina Federation of the Blind. This organization lost approximately $1.1 million. Another huge loss to this scandal was a small-town dress shop owner who invested over $550,000 in Carolina Investors and purchased $32,000 in stock in the parent company, HomeGold. Shutting these doors and admitting to the losses created retirement loss issues for many small mom-and-pop businesses, along with many other business operation partners. Dwight Holder started Carolina Investors after laying to rest one of his children and seeing the need for cemetery plots without the burden of an unexpected expense during a catastrophic event. In his eyes, as well as anyone in this situation would feel, that the death of one of your children was stressful enough. Adding the pressure of having to figure out where the additional money was going to come from could really push someone over the edge. Being that he was from Pickens County, which is not considered one of the more abundant counties in South Carolina, he saw the need for installment plans on cemetery plots. Therefore, he had the idea of purchasing plots and financing them in the event you may experience this situation for yourself. This business was founded in 1963. Holder built cemeteries with the money he raised from the small investors. After some time went by, along with installment loans, they were able to add small construction loans and subprime financing for cars, appliances, and houses. According to an article released in USA Today, Holder left the business while it was in good standing in 1991. After Holder left the company is when the downward spiral began. The business was then turned over to bankers, lawyers, and businessmen in Greenville County, South Carolina. At this point, Carolina Investors was responsible for soliciting new investors, leaving the loans up to the parent company, HomeGold. HomeGold expanded its lending nationwide and somehow managed to stay under the radar in regards to the exemption from federal regulation. State law claimed 80% of company assets must be invested within the state. Meanwhile, HomeGold was only showing a whopping 16% invested within South Carolina. Once the nationwide lending expansion started, Home Gold began to show huge losses between the years of 1998 and 2003. This should have thrown up a red flag to those familiar with cash flow reports, income statement, or even the balance sheet. As mentioned earlier, in regards to Earl Morris, the board of Home Gold influenced Morris move his position within a full-time status. The plan was to increase revenue since Morris was a well-liked, persuasive type of personality. In exchange, Morris would be given an annual salary of $100,000 a year along with bonuses. Morris was able to persuade one of his longtime supporters to invest their money into Carolina Investors. This was the one that I mentioned earlier, South Carolina Federation of the Blind. Morris also was able to persuade many senior citizens whom had followed him and his success over the years. Morris began to pour in the sales, and Home Gold recruited another CEO by the name of Ronald Shepard. Merging Shepard's lending company into Carolina Investors somehow made a paper transaction of nearly $19 million non-cash added to the balance sheet. The investment banker, Raymond James, earned $650,000 for making this merger take place. What did Shepard get out of this deal, you may ask? A nice hefty salary of $1.9 million a year, use of a private jet for his business and personal use, the use of a recreational vehicle valued at $1.1 million, as well as other perks. When comparing all of the mentioned, you now know what helped create the downfall of Carolina Investors. March 23, 2003, temporary closing signs were posted on its windows as well as its doors. The 2002 financial statement showed combined losses of $300 million. First quarter 2003, Morris and Owen made all efforts to increase the revenue. In these 3 months, they managed to bring in nearly $17 million, however, not making a dent in the $300 million loss already reported in 2002. The close of this business ended in much heartache for many South Carolina citizens and jail time for those responsible for the fall. This chosen topic I decided to share gives the Code of Ethics a whole new meaning to me. As an accountant or CEO, CFO, or CPA, these titles are not labeled as an honorable judge. However, an oath is taken for these positions to help lead the company financially the best that it can. Rather than finding losses and covering them up, it is up to us in the finance world to be upfront and honest with those in charge to make sound, ethical decisions when it comes to the business.